Tim Churchill from Tim Talk, and today I'm with State Representative Walter Timilty, who is a candidate running for Massachusetts State Senator for Norfolk, Bristol, and Plymouth districts for the Democratic primary on September 8th, formerly held by Senator Brian Joyce. The winner will face Jonathan Lott, an independent, on the November 8th general election. Mr. Timilty, thank you for being here.
Hey, Tim, thank you for having me. Please call me Walter. It's great to be here in West Bridgewater again.
Yeah.
And I thank you.
All right, thank you for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Well, I'm 47 years old, Tim, and I grew up in the town of Milton. Attended Milton Public Schools for a while, and I graduated from Milton Academy, then Boston College from college. I also have worked at the State House as a legislative aide to the House Ways and Means Vice Chairman at the time.
Wow.
And back when I was 28, 29 years old, I embarked upon a campaign when I was 28 to be our state representative for Milton and Randolph. I was an underdog at the time, and I quit my job and started knocking on doors every single day in February of the election year. Rain, snow, heat, and I ended up winning in an upset.
Wow.
Since then, I've been a state representative at the State House representing Milton and Randolph. I've been a full-time state representative with no outside jobs, just strictly working for the people of Milton and Randolph.
Well, I can tell that you've done a lot of work to get where you are.
Well, thank you very much, Tim. I know you've done a lot of work to establish this fine program.
Thank you.
And as a state representative, I've been served on committees, the Ways and Means Committee, which is our budget writing committee. I'm currently not on the Ways and Means Committee, but several terms on the Ways and Means, the Public Service Committee.
I read that on your website.
You did. Public safety, revenue, telecom and energy at one time, and veterans and federal financial assistance, and redistricting committee, and a few others along the way during my time. That's a little bit about me professionally. Personally, my parents, I'm blessed. I have wonderful parents and two sisters who are tremendous, Carrie and Michelle. And my sister Michelle has 3 children, a nephew, and 2 nieces who are a source of great happiness for all of us in our lives. In years past, I've coached Little League, coached youth hockey. Currently not doing that, but 12 years of Little League, I believe, and 2 or 3 years of youth hockey. I am a sponsor of a Little League baseball team, sponsor of a girls softball team in Milton, and a girls softball team in Randolph. And as far as what I do for downtime, I love to exercise, and I love to read. And that's a little bit about myself.
That's very good to hear.
Oh, thank you.
Can you tell us if there's a special reason that you're running as state senator?
Very much, very important reason. When you serve in the state legislature, you have an ability, because you're the most visible person in your community, generally, or one of the most visible people in your community. People will come to you when they need assistance. The most obvious thing we do is we vote on the laws that we live under here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we debate them. But that's half of what we do in my estimation. A big, big part of what we do, and the legislative part, the legislative aspect of being a state legislator is an enormous responsibility, but a big part of what we do is serve people. And as a state legislator, you have a big, big platform to help people out. You know, small issues or big issues, simple issues or complex issues. I love helping people, and I love working for the people that I represent, and I'll be that type of state senator for West Bridgewater. Well, I'll devote all my heart, my soul, all my industry to working for the people of West Bridgewater, to solving their problems as best I can, to treating people with the utmost respect, to being visible, to being accessible. And that's part of being a full-time state senator. So the reason why I'm running to be a state senator, Tim, when you're in the state senate, there are only 40 members. You have a great ability right off the bat to have a great impact for the public good, for the community of West Bridgewater and the other 9 communities in the Norfolk, Bristol, and Plymouth district, and specifically the people of West Bridgewater. You have a great ability to help people out, and that's what makes me happy. Every single day when I come home from work, if I've helped people out, that is a great source of satisfaction for me personally.
Seems like a very important role.
It is. It really, it's a very important job. It's a job where you need someone who's experienced. So come January 2017, when the new legislative session is sworn in, that West Bridgewater has a state senator who knows how to draft legislation, who knows how to literally conduct himself at a committee hearing and ask questions of the witnesses,
Yes.
testify in front of committees. testify in front of committees, to build coalitions, to seek co-sponsors to your legislation that you file, to work with community leaders, which I've been doing now for 17 years, to know the communities. It's all very important to have those experiences and skills honed when the session is sworn in January 2017. It's not a job for on-the-job training.
Yeah. Can you explain what exactly are the responsibilities of state senator?
Of a state senator, they're very similar as being a state representative, both state representative and state senator, and I'm seeking to be a state senator. Literally, draft legislation in conjunction with staff at the State House, with the attorneys who work at the State House. We draft legislation. It's a team effort in conjunction with colleagues. We file the legislation.
Yeah.
We sit on committees that I mentioned earlier. There are joint Senate-House committees with a complement of members of the House and a complement of the members of the Senate, with joint chairs from the Senate and the House. I serve with some wonderfully talented women and men in the state legislature. We vote in the Senate chamber and the House chamber and debate on the laws that are up for consideration to be added to the Mass General laws. We also testify at committee hearings, and that's where the lion's share of legislative work is done, at the committee hearings.
Oh.
Bills are brought up for hearings, and they're public hearings. Everything is transparent. Anybody from the general public can come in and sign up and testify for or in opposition to a bill.
Oh.
And
Wow,
members
I
of the
didn't know
state
that
Senate
you did
or
that.
the State House of Representatives will come in, and I do this frequently, quite often. I file many bills on behalf of my constituents, and I will file many bills on behalf of the people of West Bridgewater. And I track the bills and appear at the committees in person and testify, urging the members of the committee to provide a favorable recommendation of the bill. So that's a great part of being a state senator or a state representative, is the legislative part. Also, as a state legislator, you're in your communities. As I mentioned earlier, you're one of the most visible people in your communities, Tim. So as a state representative, and I will be the same as a state senator, I will constantly be here in West Bridgewater,
Wow.
working for people. It's a big part of being in a community. To me, being a state senator or a state representative is not about being on Beacon Hill. That's part of it. But to me, what's most important is being in the towns you represent,
Wow.
so that people are comfortable with you. They feel comfortable approaching you to talk about an issue that concerns them, or an issue that's affecting their lives where they need assistance.
Yep, it seems like a role that requires a lot of people skills, so working with the people.
You're
so.
right on the money, Tim. Being a state senator or a state representative, in my case, I'm seeking to be your state senator, people skills are incredibly important. And by the way, I will never forget that I am a regular person. A regular person. There are no airs about me. I'm here to work for people and treat people with respect. And I will never forget that I work for the people of West Bridgewater.
All right.
And people skills are a big part of that.
That's good to hear. What towns does your seat cover?
The Senate district that I am seeking,
Yes.
all of West Bridgewater, one precinct in East Bridgewater,
Okay.
Milton, Canton, Stoughton, Sharon, Avon, 4 precincts in Braintree, 2 precincts in Sharon. I forgot to mention that earlier.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 towns in total.
Oh, wow.
So Milton, Canton, Stoughton, Sharon, Avon, Braintree, East Bridgewater, West Bridgewater, and the town of Easton.
Well, that means you gotta have connections in a lot of places because it doesn't entirely cover a lot of the towns. So.
It's very important. It's very important. The town of Easton, East Bridgewater, West Bridgewater, Braintree, Milton, Canton, Stoughton, Sharon, Avon. I have people that I've met over the years, know from government, know from civic groups, that I've developed professional relationships with and personal relationships to amass groups and coalitions whenever an issue confronts the towns. I'll be able to jump right in and work with people side by side, hand in hand, to solve issues and solve problems for the communities.
Yeah.
So it's very important to know people and know the towns ahead of time. I've actually run a campaign in all 10 towns in the Senate district in this campaign. I am the only candidate in this race who's run a campaign in all 10 towns.
Oh, wow.
So I am that much further immersed in the communities, what communities need, what they don't want, what the people expect from their elected officials. And there are great elected officials in this town, by the way.
What skills do you think you have that will help Massachusetts?
Right away, my experience. I am ready to do the job. I'm doing the job right now as a state representative, and I am extremely ready and prepared to be the state senator for West Bridgewater and the 9 other towns in the Norfolk, Bristol, and Plymouth district.
Well,
So right away experience, my education. I've attended public schools in this Commonwealth. Over the years, I've spent quite a bit of time in the public schools in Milton and Randolph supporting the teachers. I've been endorsed by the Mass Teachers Association and the Mass Federation of Teachers.
Well, having experience in the schools means you can better judge laws that affect the schools. So,
You can absolutely, the regulations that schools operate under, the laws that we all operate under, the resources, most importantly, that the schools need. I'm keenly aware what resources our public schools need in this Commonwealth. Our public schools are the most important institution in our country.
yeah,
They educate the very
Source of-
future,
the
the very
source of
future of this country,
education,
for the
so-
most part. Obviously, we have private schools, we have parochial schools, we have homeschooling. Public schools are the most important institution we have, as they educate millions of children that are our future.
yes.
And I believe my experiences working with public schools, supporting our students, our faculty, and our parents in the educational process, my experience on day one will serve me to be a state senator
Yeah.
extremely well for this town and for the other 9 towns in the Norfolk, Bristol, and Plymouth district. And I believe that's why the Mass Federation of Teachers, the Mass Teachers Association, have that confidence in me to endorse my candidacy. So that's another skill, my people skills. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a regular person, and I am always out in public working with people. I am not in my office at the State House. Excuse me, I am there obviously when we're in session and working. It's a full-time job.
Well-
But I take pride in the fact that I am somebody who's out in the general public working with the people I represent. So those are the qualities I bring to the job. Great interpersonal skills, a knowledge and a pledge that I've kept that I will never forget who I work for, the people of Milton and Randolph, and in the state senate it will be the people of West Bridgewater and the 9 other towns, and my commitment and my experience.
Could you tell us what are your 3 greatest priorities for Massachusetts?
Well, thank you very much, Tim. That's a great question. Number 1, local aid. Local aid are the monies that the state legislature, in conjunction with the governor, send to communities like West Bridgewater, all communities in the Commonwealth, to financially fuel your police, your fire, your public school system, your DPW, your libraries. So that is my greatest priority. Those monies keep your property taxes lower.
Yeah, that's
Those
that's what
monies,
runs the community. So,
it provides the lion's share of resources financially for the departments that I just mentioned. And that keeps your property taxes lower here in the community, all the communities. So that's my number 1 priority, because I'm keenly aware that dollars and cents are crucial to us all. They're important to me, and I know they're important to every single person in towns. Also, and not necessarily in this order, the opiate crisis.
yes. it's very
I'm
big
47
deal.
years old, Tim. In my lifetime, domestically, it's the biggest crisis that our country's faced. It affects all demographics and all geographics. Several months ago, I voted for a legislative proposal to address this crisis, dedicated more resources, did a lot of things, but specifically, some of the highlights, dedicated more financial resources to treating people. People who suffer from addiction can't be arrested or incarcerated. We can't arrest our way out of this problem. We have to treat people. We have to treat people, number 1. So resources financially to cure more people and provide the facilities to do so and the bed space. Also resources financially to educate young people. To educate people as to what will happen, what potentially could happen if opiates are abused,
Yes.
the usage of opiates, to protect people before they make a bad decision. And I know this isn't all about bad decisions. I
Yeah.
know of stories where people
Medical
sustained
injuries.
injuries in high school.
Exactly.
High
They get
school.
an injury and then they get addicted.
And they're
So,
prescribed? Absolutely, Tim. So it's not necessarily about a bad decision. So that's why we need more resources for education, and we also need more financial resources to treat people. It has been called a good first step, and it is a first step, and I know we need to do more, and we will need to do more. And much of it's about dedicating financial resources to both treat and educate. It also has created a registry for medical doctors when they're about to prescribe a pill, an
To-
opiate, if you will,
Look at the
to
background.
look up their patient and see what has already been prescribed.
Yeah.
So it's been a first step. I'm very cognizant we need to do more, and we will do more.
Mm-hmm.
We will do more. I promise you that.
What changes would you like to see in Massachusetts if you were elected?
I believe that government needs to be more nimble. Government needs to have an ability to respond in a quicker fashion to the needs of the citizens of the Commonwealth. So that is what I would like most to see with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a more nimble government that can act in a quicker fashion to serve the needs of our citizens here in the Commonwealth.
All right. Who were some of your role models growing up?
Role models growing up. My parents. My parents were my role models growing up. My mother and my father are everything to me in my world. I am blessed to have them in my life. They are wonderful people who are leaders in the town that I've grown up in, and they just show me how to be, have shown me to always treat people with respect when I was a young child, to be honest, to be straightforward, to be hardworking, to care about your neighbors, to make sure you're there for your friends always, to always have respect for your community and the institutions in your community. So my parents have been my role model.
That's good to hear.
And they still to this day are my role models.
That's good to hear. What are your opinions on the 4 ballot questions in November? Which are, excuse me,
Sure.
the Increased Access to Public Charter Schools initiative, which would authorize the approval of up to 12 new charter schools or enrollment expansions in existing charter schools by the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education per year. The Expanded Gaming Initiative, which would allow the Gaming Commission to issue an additional slots license. The Farm Animal Containment Initiative, which prohibits certain methods of farm animal containment. And the Marijuana Legalization Initiative, which would legalize recreational marijuana for individuals at least 21 years old.
Okay, could we start one by one?
Sure.
And
of course.
you rattle them off, please, Tim.
All right, so how do you feel about the Increased Access to Public Charter Schools initiative?
I am opposed to raising the cap on charter schools. Because in the past several years, $400 million have been diverted from our public schools to charter schools.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, as I mentioned earlier, our public schools are the most important institution we have, not just in this Commonwealth, but across the nation. And I believe they need every possible dollar to educate children within our communities and educate our children well in these communities. So for that reason, I'm opposed to raising the cap on charter schools.
Okay. How do you feel about the Expanded Gaming Initiative?
I am in favor of it. I'm in favor of it because I look upon it as being economic development.
Okay.
It will to erect another gaming establishment. In this case, I believe a slots parlor, an additional slots parlor.
Yes, I believe it's talking about
I
a
believe
slots
it's
parlor,
one
not a
additional
casino.
slots parlor. I believe that that will create, well, I know it will. It will create jobs right off the bat to build, design, build, and furnish a slots parlor. So right away, that's going to create good paying jobs where people will go back to their communities, like West Bridgewater, like Easton, like East Bridgewater, like Braintree, Milton, Canton, Stoughton, Sharon, Avon, and spend money in the community. And that's how you support small businesses and mid-level businesses, which are the fabric of America, by encouraging economic development. I believe this is one way of encouraging economic development. So I am in favor of creating a supporting a ballot question that would create one more license for a slot parlor.
All right, just theoretically, would you think that a slots parlor would be more economic to the community, or would a full casino be better?
Well, a casino, because of course it's vastly larger than a slots parlor, would spur more economic development just by virtue of the sheer size and scope and the employment numbers of the women and men who would be employed to build it, furnish it, and then staff it.
Yeah.
And of course, that's another aspect of economic development for a slots
Well,
parlor.
yes.
You'll staff it, and people will be earning decent wages. So a casino would spur more economic development, but in terms of economic development, whenever I see an opportunity to encourage economic development, I want to take advantage of it and support it.
How do you feel about the Farm Animal Containment Initiative?
I'm undecided on that one right now, Tim. I'd have to see more in terms of studies. I've always been very keenly aware that animals need to be protected and cared for in a humane fashion. I would like to see, however, what the impact it will have on small farms to mid-level farms around the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I'm keenly aware we have a fair amount of agriculture here in the town of
Yes,
West Bridgewater
we
and East Bridgewater. And agriculture in towns like Stoughton and the Blue Hills Reservation. So I'd have to see the impact it would have on those small to mid-level farms.
I
And
agree.
balance it. It's a balancing act
Yeah.
with our concern for animal rights.
I'm looking for more information on that as well.
Okay.
How do you feel about the marijuana legalization initiative?
I am opposed to it.
Okay.
Police chiefs all across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that I've spoken to and frequently in my role as a state representative, and it will be no different in my role as your state senator. I am constantly in contact with the police chiefs in the towns that I represent, and to a person they have told me that this will be an absolute disaster for our communities. So I'm a big believer in supporting people in public safety who are on the front lines protecting us and serving us, and they are adamantly opposed to that. And for those reasons, and my own personal reasons, I am adamantly opposed to it as well. Marijuana is frequently referred to as a gateway drug, and it is a slippery slope. So for my personal reasons, I am opposed to it, but also in deference to our police chiefs and law enforcement, and women and men in the rank and file in law enforcement here in the Commonwealth, I am opposed to legalizing marijuana for recreational use.
A few months ago, I went to a DARE program that, and they showed a video that had probably 100 or 150 people that has died between just one or two drugs in a few towns in the last year or so. So I'd be cautious about that as well.
Yes, I am adamantly opposed to it, to legalizing marijuana for recreational use, as I mentioned earlier. I've attended DARE camps over the years in my role as a state representative. DARE camps are wonderful places for our children. They're great building blocks for our community, for our young people. And the tragedies that you just spoke of are rampant. They are rampant, and they are, as I mentioned, tragic, and they cut across all demographics and geographics. And we have to do more, and we will do more.
What would you most like voters to know about you?
I would like voters to most know about me that I am a regular person who respects tremendously our veterans. Veterans are up here in my estimation, I'm down here. That I'm a humble person, that I respect our seniors. Our seniors have made our communities what they are, that I am devoted to our public schools. I am keenly aware that young families need to be supported by their state government, that they need to have their taxes reduced so that they can keep their monies and invest them in their homes, their children, their future, and that I'm a full-time person who will never forget that I work for the people I represent here in West Bridgewater.
Yeah.
And that I am as honest as they come, and in my tenure in the House of Representatives, my ethical record is unblemished, and that I will forever be devoted to the people here in West Bridgewater and all the communities in the Norfolk and Bristol and Plymouth district.
That's good to hear. If anybody wants to know more about your campaign, where could they go to find information?
Timiltyforsenate.com with the number 4. And
right.
please, I welcome the attention.
All right.
Welcome the attention, and I thank you for the question.
All right. Is there any closing remarks you'd like to add?
Yes. First of all, thank you, Tim, and I
Thank you for being here.
I thank your mom and your production staff here in West Bridgewater, at West Bridgewater High School on the Community Access Cable. It's been my privilege to be a candidate for the State Senate now since February. I've been knocking on doors on Saturdays, weeknights after work until it gets dark out, weekends for 8 hours per day, roughly, in the heat, rain, back in February, and drizzle at times, sleet. I am devoted to what I do in public service. Public service is a vocation. It's all about helping people and working for people.
Exactly.
When I was a child, my father served on the Board of Selectmen in the town of Milton, and he took me everywhere with him. And I saw how much satisfaction my father gained from helping people and solving their problems. And that's why I've gotten involved in public service, and that's why I've served in the state legislature. Because I love working for people, I love solving their problems, I love working on legislation, drafting legislation in conjunction with my colleagues and my staff, and I truly enjoy the ability serving in the state Senate will provide me, and has in the House of Representatives, to solve people's problems and combat people's daily issues. Whether it be helping somebody find employment who's lost their job, helping somebody with the federal government be a liaison with Congressman Lynch, who I have a wonderful relationship with in his office, helping someone deal with a federal Social Security issue,
Yeah.
helping somebody
Right,
who's
Rob.
just recently lost their father, secure their military discharge forms so there can be a military burial. Those are things I'm a liaison with Congressman Lynch. And also, just the sheer fact that I am a workaholic, and I'm a workaholic for the people I represent, and I will never forget that I work for the people of West Bridgewater, and that I work for you, Tim, and your entire family, and that I'll do it on a full-time basis, without any outside jobs, to strictly being a state senator. I will be devoted, all my industry, my heart, my soul, and my integrity will be devoted to the people of West Bridgewater. And that's the type of person I am, and that's the type of state senator I will be for everybody in this town.
All right. That's good. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me on your show.